All right, this is my audience. Here we go. My name is Cameron Hafer, and I will be giving a speech today on the impact of multilingualism on intercultural communication. Now, I want you to imagine something with me. Imagine being able to talk with people across the world in thousands of different places without any barriers, any language barriers, or anything being lost in translation between one another. This is why the benefits and the importance of intercultural communication between different cultures is so important and to me, and why you should care as well. We live in an increasingly globalized and diverse world. America, especially, and other countries, are having so many more cultures come into their life, and it is extremely difficult and at sometimes even impossible to fully understand and grasp everything about a culture without understanding the language itself. There's many nuances and specifics about a language that cannot be translated into English, which is our native language, and that is the importance of my speech today. So why should you care, and why do I care about this? Specifically, this is something that is very personal to me, as during my sophomore year of high school, I decided to really dig down and study languages, and specifically language that I wanted to study was Japanese. I learned and tried to learn French through high school, but it just did not click with me, specifically the language and and more importantly, how the education system for high schools decided to teach it to us. And so I decided to go on my own terms, find something, and really dig down and study the core concepts and everything about it. And through this process of learning Japanese, I learned something really eye-opening, is that as I thought I maybe was able to study the culture and understand different cultural aspects before, after learning the language, there are some things that I truly could understand what it meant to be have something that is untranslatable, something that is such a core value and aspect of a culture that you just have to know the language to be able to understand it. But just diving back just a little back to the start here, what are the benefits of multilingualism, and why should you learn a second language? I love languages, and this is why you should learn them as well. The first and foremost is cognitive benefits. This is the most popular reason for learning a language besides the culture itself, is that it improves memory, and it improves the speed of your thinking, makes you think on the spot. And something that's really personal to me that I really care about is that it, on average, it pushes back the oncoming of Alzheimer's by about 5 years, which is truly amazing, as something that is a disease that is, as of right now, has no cure. And that by learning another language, you can push it back 5 years. And that's just the average. You can go more as well. Economic benefits, this is something that is also really popular, especially in the workplace. If you're competing against other people when applying for a job, having another language under your belt can be a huge advantage, and also being a cultural representative for that company. And then also, and what I'm talking about today, is the social benefits, the benefits between talking between people when it comes to cultural aspects and being able to make friends anywhere. And with all these benefits, why don't more people know a second language? A really critical statistic is that over 50% of the world knows a second language. But here in America, it's under 25%. That is a crazy difference. And why don't we try and study another language here? The big thing, and everybody already knows this, is that studying a language, especially when it comes to your adult years, is really difficult. It is definitely a challenge you have to undertake. It is a huge time commitment. You have to make sure you stay motivated. And another thing is that there's very large cultural differences. Studying something, especially when I was studying Japanese, the cultural differences are night and day. It's something that is so huge, and you have to understand those aspects as well when you're speaking the language to understand it properly. When I speak in Japanese and English, it's like I'm talking as a different person, and that's something that you have to understand. It's a big challenge, but that's why it is so important to learn the second language and to push through those things to get to all those benefits. And once you overcome these barriers, you're able to get into the cultural aspect. This is when you finally start to realize that you don't know as much about the world and as much about a culture as you thought you did until you speak the language. Speaking the language is really what you see when things are untranslatable, when you see things are just such core, basic, deep-rooted aspects of a culture, that speaking the language is derived around those points. And by speaking the language, you can really understand not only just talking directly to people, but understanding those such important aspects. And you're able to build enhanced relationships when you talk to people. You don't just have to say hi. You don't have to just say small talk, or you don't have to try and go through a translator. You can speak what's on your mind. You can actually talk and have real in-depth conversations with real people. And that's where you can build those cultural connections. And in today's world, when it's, I don't have to go across 14 hours of flight to another country just to speak to someone Japanese. There is a huge population here in America of just that one culture, not to mention the hundreds of other countries around the world that are coming here, and also to other countries around the world. And being able to know the second language just really brings you together. A really important quote by Nelson Mandela is one of my favorite of all time. He's a South African politician and activist, anti-segregation activist. And something he said is, when you speak to a man in his second language, it goes to his head. He thinks about it, he responds, it's just kind of clockwork. But when you speak to a man in his mother tongue, it goes to his heart. You speak truly to him, you're speaking to his soul. You have an actual bond that forms between you two when you speak in their mother tongue. And this is something that you can't get with a translator, and you can't get with trying to piece things together in their second language. So being able to have that, and them being able to speak to you and you speak to them and have actually these personal connections, really just brings the world together. And with everybody traveling all over the world and having these separations, to take away those barriers, take away those walls, learning another language is just a crucial impact and a crucial role in doing these things. And something, how can you get help? Of course, the first thing is to just try studying a second language. Anything that you could do to help, just little by little every day, that can help. Especially a big crucial part is the education system. The American education system, when it comes to language, is not that great. They really struggle with a lot of aspects and put it as a second rate to a lot of academics and a lot of arts, which is, I think, a really sad thing that we tend to do. So a lot of things, there's a lot of different polls and a lot of different things that you can vote on. If you see anything like that, to take action about that, let your friends know, and just be educated about it. And even being here today is a big step. And that's the impact of multilingualism, and why you should really learn a second language, and how a lot of these things, and just studying a little bit every day, or just trying to learn a few words, can really connect you with another person and make the world a lot more connected and together. Thank you. Audience still there, and the cat.